So, how much of the facility has to be inspected?
All of it, every square
Everything.
inch. And we're about to go through one in 2 weeks from yesterday. We have 3 levels of inspection. We have the state of Georgia. In our smaller honey houses, it was the Commodities Inspection Division that came and inspected us, and we've never failed an inspection, knock on wood. And I tried. First thing I did when I was building my second honey house is I called the inspector and I said, "Can you come out here?" I said, "I want you to tell me everything I need to know." And he did, and he was very nice, and he was very happy that I'd called him. And I still made a few mistakes, but he was forgiving and helped me get through it. And so we had the state. And then now, because of the size of our facility, we have moved up in the state inspection to some other level. I forget what it's called, but it's the same inspector comes here that goes to the meat packing houses and all that type of stuff around here. Okay, so the most important inspection is a third-party food safety audit, which is done by Cook and Thurber. That's an outfit out of Michigan, and they've got inspectors all over the country. The last one we had came in from Atlanta, and you have to pay their mileage and their hourly rate, and it's quite expensive. I mean, we spent several $1,000s just getting inspected. And the reason they are so important to us is because companies like Walmart and Costco and Kroger's and Publix, all of these big chains require that inspection. Without it, they won't do business with you. And rightfully so. It kind of covers their butt. So they know you're legit. They know you're good. There are some state inspections in the country that aren't as good as others, and this one assures them that you're in good shape. And the hardest part for us isn't staying clean, because we always stay clean. The hardest part is all the documentation that they require. Everything that flows through this building has to be documented. Everything we do has to be documented. If a part breaks on a machine, they want it recorded. They want to know who fixed it, what kind of, everything, what did they do, what date was it? And that person has to sign off on it, and then I have to sign off that I know that it happened and was done correctly, and and then traceability. When you go out in the warehouse, you'll see all our drums have a little sticker on them with numbers and letters that mean nothing to anybody else but us, and we can look at those stickers. We know where the drum came from, who it was, what type of honey it was, what date the drum came in here, and then on the drum somewhere is a moisture reading, and Louis, our warehouse guy, enters all that information into a logbook, and he's the one that actually creates what's going to eventually be the barcode that ends up on our jars. And that barcode tells us everything, and nobody else can read it and understand it. But from the numbers and letters on there, we know who, what, how, when, where, everything. And he creates this barcode and this logbook that says what goes into a batch, all the barrels that go into a batch. And then he takes that barcode and it's very simple. He just takes a little sticker and puts it on the tank in the room. And then the girls in the pouring room use that number to put into their logbooks. And then they also use that number as a lot code that goes on every container that leaves here. And I'll explain it to you. It's very simple. The numbers at the end of the code are simply the date backwards. No customers ever seem to be able to pick up on that because it doesn't look like a date. But to us, immediately we know, just by looking at a jar, I can tell you what date. And there is no expiration date on honey, and so we don't have to do that. And then the letters at the beginning tell us a lot about the type of honey and all of that. And then if we have to, and we have had to have a recall here once. It was a malicious recall. I hate to say that, and I don't know who did it. They wouldn't let us know, and I understand why. But we co-pack for somebody who sells honey to a big chain in South Carolina. Co-packing meaning we fill the jar, put his label on it, and barcode it, and freight it out of here for him. He never touches it. It goes to the place that he's selling it to. And our Georgia inspector showed up here one day saying, "I need to see such and such lot code. I need to see the sample. I need to see all the paperwork. And by the way, we keep a sample. Need to see everything." And she's a nice lady. We get along with her well, so we finally got around to figuring out what was going on. And the inspector in South Carolina had told her that they had a complaint that the honey had been sampled by a lab in South Carolina and found to have a certain bacteria in it, and that this honey had to be taken off the shelf. And so it was obviously malicious, because my wife actually figured this out for the inspector. She got online and researched this particular bacteria or whatever it was, microbial thing, and she said it stated just bluntly that this cannot survive in honey. Honey kills this in short order. Mm-hmm. And we're saying, well, okay, so, where'd this complaint come from? And they wouldn't tell us. So it told us that somebody was creating a malicious situation. I don't know what was meant to cause trouble for the man we co-pack for, or for us, but probably for the man we co-pack for, because whoever picked that jar off the store shelf probably didn't know where it actually originated, so they were probably trying to pick on him.
Yeah.
And and completely different subject, but you do run into, I don't know if you want to use the word jealousy, or sometimes people try to make themselves taller by cutting off the heads of others. Mm-hmm. And I think every field has that. Some people can't just simply do business and get along. They've got to ruin everybody else to try to get ahead themselves, and that may have been what was going on. I don't know. It's a sad fact, but it happens everywhere.
You deal with that in everything in life.
Yeah.
When a situation like that comes up, that's when you really need to have your ducks in a row.
That's right. And we were so glad. I mean, we went right and found the sample jar and laid out all the log books, and she was quite satisfied. So we were sort of like, whew, boy, And we do mock recalls. We're required to do that, where we do a mock recall. We do a recall ourselves and do all the paperwork just like it was a recall, but it actually wasn't a complaint somewhere. And we're required to do that twice a year. It's a training thing. And part of this inspection, they want to see logbooks on training, how we train our employees, refresh training, and all of that kind of stuff. It's quite in depth, and if you get big enough, you're going to run into it.
I don't know that I'll ever get that big.
Well, yeah, you never know.
At what scale do you have all these extra?
Well, once we went into Walmart, we had to have it. Walmart was our first big chain store type of outfit that we dealt business with, and it was extremely hard to get in Walmart. But this is just the opposite of all the stories I heard. Once we got into Walmart, which took a year of red tape and multiple carbon copies of a zillion things we had to fill out, and once we got in Walmart, it was pretty smooth. I've never had Walmart do the things people report, like threaten to kick us out if we didn't lower our price or anything like that. We made several price increases. I've been dealing with them a long time, probably 15 or 18 years. And when we put in price increases, they want to know why. They want to argue with you, but they've never denied us. They've always given us what we asked for, and we're about to give them another one because of this current inflation. We have to. But Walmart's been pretty easy to deal with. We deal with Kroger's and some of the other chains, and we can actually get to a human being with Walmart. We don't get stopped at some sort of firewall on the computer that we can't go any further. We can find ourselves to somebody that will help us with Walmart. I've been very impressed with Walmart, actually. Not so impressed with some of the other chains we deal with. Some of them are very difficult to get something resolved if there's a problem. But Walmart's okay. You didn't expect that, did you?
I didn't. We studied Walmart in economics because they're a strange type of market where they are known as a monopsony.
I don't even know what that means.
A monopoly is a single seller into a market. A monopsony is a single buyer into a market. Where if you do business with me, I want you to do all your business with me, and then I have leverage.
I would be very nervous. In fact,
And there was some of that back in the day. There's been a lot of those over the, in history, but
I've heard horror stories about that. I have a friend longtime friend who's an economics professor. He worked at Berkeley for a while. And he said, don't ever get past 25% of your business with any company. And we did get to a point for a while where 40% of our gross income was with Walmart. And rather than trying to decrease our income with Walmart, I just allowed our gross to go up with other companies. I chose to discontinue expanding into more Walmart stores. We're in about 95. Mm-hmm. And we have the ability and we have the wherewithal and the connections to make that much bigger, but I've chosen not to do it because I didn't want to get too many eggs in one basket. So now Walmart is probably only about 10% of our business. Kroger's, on the other hand, is huge. I just did the analysis because I had to do that for price increase information for Kroger's, which was quite in depth. They wanted to know everything except for the date of my firstborn child, And I found out that we're doing exactly 26 of our gross income is with Kroger. So I would probably choose not to increase that either. And we have the ability, and again, just like Walmart, we have the wherewithal and the opportunity to expand that. But I'm going to be very careful about that. I don't need to be doing 40% with anybody. In the beginning, everything was finance, and I had to pay payments on it. If I lost 30% of my business suddenly, I would not go bankrupt because I'm finally in a position where I can cover the payments that go out the door with 2/3 of our gross income. So once you got a lot of stuff paid for, then you can afford to take those kind of gambles. But if you owe a ton of money and that 40% source of income and you're dependent on them for your bank payments and your everything, your property payments and everything, that's where you're in the danger zone. But we're out of that, thank goodness, we're out of that danger zone now. And it's been a long, rough, hard road. But just in the last 2 or 3 years, I've got to the point where I have paid for most of the assets that you see around us here. And that's actually where the point where you start actually putting serious money away. Mm-hmm. It's just been in the last 2 years where I feel like I'm finally, up till 2 years ago, I had employees that were bringing home checks that were bigger than me. But I always knew that I was paying down assets, and that's my 401k. I don't have stocks and bonds, and everything's in this. All these assets are liquidatable. And when I sell, that's my retirement plan. And now that the assets are paid off, I feel so much more comfortable with my debt, and I'm able to take money out of this business now in a serious way that I never could do for the first 38 years of being in business. Everything just went right back straight into the business. And I didn't mind doing it that way. That's like paying Monopoly, and every time you can buy another property, you do it. And then just hope eventually somebody lands on Park Place with a bunch of hotels. And that's where I'm at now. We're finally in that position.